Great, thank you. Okay, welcome to the evening council meeting of November the 23rd. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel, youtube.com District of Summerland. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and will be available for the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Members of the public are encouraged to register their name and civic address in advance of the meeting for the public comment opportunity found under items 8 and 15 by emailing corporateofficer@summerland.ca. Those who may not have registered in advance but wish to provide public comments may call the District of Summerland conference line at 1-877-385-4099, and enter participant access code 7382948 during the live meeting. Corporate Officer, do we have any late items? Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, there's none.
Thank you. Could I have someone bring forward approval of the agenda, please? Councillor Barkwell, Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Great, thank you. And adoption of the minutes of November 9th, the evening meeting, and the public hearing also held on November the 9th. Any changes to either of those documents? Okay, Councillor Carlson, I think I saw your hand up. Great, thank you. And Councillor Van Alphen, all in favor? Great. Okay, on to the mayor's report. Well, here we are again on Zoom. As much as council prefers to meet in person, we will revisit our decision to meet electronically after December the 7th when we hear more from the provincial health officer. On Wednesday, November 11th, I took some time out of CAO interviews to represent Summerland on Remembrance Day at the Remembrance Day service. My thanks to the Legion for hosting this service, mindful of the pandemic restrictions. It was reverent and honoring of those in our community and all Canadians who have or continue to work for peace. Last week, Council announced that Mr. Graham Stat will be joining the district on January the 4th, 2021 to fill the role of Chief Administrative Officer. Mr. Stat has worked in senior staff positions with the Alberta government and brings many years of leadership to his new position at the district. On Friday, November 13th, I was a panelist in a webinar called Perspectives on Affordable Housing, chaired by Vancouver Mayor Kennedy Stewart. In his opening, Mayor Stewart reminded participants that a range of housing options is key. What may be affordable to one person or family is out of reach for another. Other presenters included Jill Atke of the BC Nonprofit Housing Association, Michael Anderson with Sightline Institute out of Seattle, and Paul Finch of the BC Government Employees Union. I learned about some interesting and innovative work being done in other areas. Something that all speakers mentioned was that if local governments want to see more affordable housing projects in their communities, they need to ensure their zoning and development bylaws reflect that objective. Utilities budget discussions began on Tuesday morning, November the 17th, and ran the full day. Staff are preparing a public utility rates open house for December the 7th, and more details will be made available by the end of this month. Summerland, I know we are all weary of the pandemic and some are not happy with the tighter restrictions announced last Thursday. But the counts, positive tests, people in hospital, and sadly those dying of COVID-19 is rising in BC and in the Interior Health region. For the sake of your family, your friends, your neighbors, and yourselves, please follow Dr. Henry's directives. We're in this together and we'll get through it together. On behalf of Council, thank you for doing your part to be kind, be calm, and stay safe. Thank you. CAO, or acting CAO, I'm not sure what to call you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to say that the district continues as well to follow the latest orders from the provincial health officer, and the latest being the wearing of masks in all of district-owned facilities. The order requires all indoor spaces for people to wear masks, and the district, of course, is following that advice. And just to thank staff and residents for continuing, as you've mentioned, to work together and to support each other as we follow the advice of the health officer to ensure our community is as safe as we can be. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone on the line or indicating their intention to speak at this first public comment opportunity? No. Okay. So moving right on to 9 and 9.1 is a development variance permit, DVP 20-029, 5010 Croyle Avenue. And I will put this over to Brad and Bobby, I believe. Oh, Brad, Bobby, you're getting us started, or?
Yes, I am. And I hope everyone can hear me okay. I'm getting an unstable connection warning. So just feel free to stop me if you have any issues. I'll just share my screen here. So I'll just start with a bit of a recap. This variance was before council last month, and the mayor, Tony Boot, was not in attendance for that one. So I think it'd be valuable to go over a few of the previous points. The District of Summerland has received an application for development variance permit, DVP 20-029 at 5010 Croyle Avenue. The applicants are proposing to vary Schedule C.5 sections 2.03 fire demand criteria and 2.05 hydraulic network considerations of the District of Summerland subdivision and development servicing. Variance application is successful. The applicant would be relieved of the meter diameter water main on Croyle Avenue. The subject parcel is situated on the west side of Croyle Avenue and is approximately half an acre in size. The existing the current owner has applied for this development variance permit to facilitate a proposed 3-lot subdivision. The current zoning of the property is RSD2, and the applicants currently have a rezoning application to go to RSD1 being held at third reading. And this low density residential use aligns with the OCP. So section 2.03 of Schedule C.5 of the SDS bylaw refers to fire demand criteria, and that the minimum fire flows for any new development needs to be 60 liters per second. And this goes hand in hand with the minimum water main diameter of section 2.05 being 150 millimeters. And where the existing water main on Croyle Avenue is only 100 millimeters in diameter. So there are inadequate fire flows on Croyle Avenue, currently only reading at 42 liters per second. So that is where this variance comes into effect. The applicants are proposing for the fire demand to remain at 42 liters per second as opposed to the specified minimum 60 liters per second. So as a result, the requirements and concerns mentioned, the applicant is currently required to upgrade approximately 175 meters of water main from Wharf Street to hydrant 341 on Croyle Avenue. The size of the water main is required to be confirmed by water modeling, which is an outcome of the subdivision application. but it is to be no smaller than 150 millimeters as per the section 2.05 of the SDS bylaw. So this is just the resolution that council came to on October 26th of this year. Council deferred the consideration of this variance application, directing staff to further investigate the applicant's option 3 with variances specified by council. So this kind of outlines that the applicant's option 3 is the red line there going to the south property line on the west side of Croyle Avenue, effectively twinning the water main on Croyle Avenue. And then the yellow line is the variance that council asked staff to look into to that option, connecting to the fire hydrant and looping the existing water main to that new extension. So although construction of this option was the cheapest up front at an estimated $120,000, staff remained unanimously unsupportive of the option, which would involve retaining the 50-year-old water main asset that Public Works described as a ticking time bomb, installed with old construction methods and materials that are not resilient to groundwater conditions that are found in the Trout Creek area. This design option would provide adequate fire flows. However, the existing 100 millimeter diameter water main on Croyle Avenue would then become non-compliant with other sections of the SDS bylaw, such as the maximum velocities that are specified in the SDS bylaw during fire flow situations. Excessive velocities would further decrease the lifespan of that water main. Public Works also noted that within the next 20 years, they would receive emergency phone calls to replace every single water service on this water main, which would cost the district of Summerland $50,000 at staff's regular time. This value could be multiplied by 1.5 or 2 times if the calls were to come in outside of regular working hours. So effectively making this option the most expensive long-term. Staff also noted that retaining a 50-year-old asset or any other asset for that matter that would duplicate what is already in place is not supported by staff. It is also worthy to note that any variation of option 3 or construction on the west side of Croyle Avenue would require acquisition of land from the property owner at 5202 Croyle Avenue to maintain 3-meter spacing from the existing sanitary main that would be between these 2 water mains. And that's a requirement of the Provincial Health Authority. So this is the design option that staff have come up with. We spent a lot of time internally and consulting with our water modeling consultant. This design decreases the length of pipe that the district would require the applicant to upgrade and decreases the cost as a result, satisfying fire flows and the minimum hydrant spacing to the end of Croyle Avenue, which would be 90 meters, a 90-meter radius. This option also renews a portion of a 50-year-old water main that is at no physical cost to the district, satisfying one of council's priorities of asset management. Staff presented this option to the applicants on November 10th in hopes of coming to an agreement prior to today's meeting. An agreement was not able to be put in place. So this is where it gets a little tricky with the resolution that staff have recommended to you today. So I'll do my best to try to keep you guys on track and explain it in a way as best as I can. So this map that I've got up here, the green shows the water main upgrade that would still be required if council were to pass the resolution proposed by staff today. The red shows the length of pipe that would no longer be required to be installed if council passed the resolution that was recommended by staff. And this orange length is a section of road frontage that the applicants are currently required to upgrade to the local road standard as part of subdivision. But staff are recommending an additional variance be granted to help save some costs to the applicants if council wishes to do so. So the benefits to staff's design option when compared to the requirements of the SDS bylaw saves the applicant $13,500 just from the design change alone. And then when you add on that additional variance to section 3.10 of the SDS bylaw at an estimated $50,000 savings to the applicant, the decision that council has in front of them tonight could potentially save the applicants $63,500 estimated without contributing physical funds to the applicants, which is what it sounded like the conversation was leading to at the last council meeting. In addition to these savings, the applicant would still be eligible to enter into a latecomers agreement to recuperate some of their costs should future development take place on Croyle Avenue. So there are 4 options in front of council today to move the option as recommended by staff, which will be on the next slide. Option 2 would be to deny the variance to meet minimum fire flows. I'm sure we can all agree that the fire flows need to be met in order for this subdivision to continue, and grant a variance to reduce the minimum water main diameter over a portion of the property, because currently the entire frontage needs to meet 150 millimeters, and to contribute a percentage of the estimated cost of $147,000 to upgrade the water main to the staff recommended design option. And option 3 would be to grant all variances requested to allow the applicants to continue with the subdivision. And option 4 would be to deny all variances requested by the applicants. So if we all followed along through all that, this is the recommendation that staff are proposing, that the portion for to meet the minimum fire flows be denied, so that the minimum fire flows must be achieved of 60 liters per second, and then that the following be granted: that the minimum water main diameter size from 150 millimeters to 100 millimeters proposed for the frontage of proposed lots 1 and 2 of the subdivision application to the south property line of 5010 Croyle Avenue, and then also the additional variance that staff are recommending council grant to reduce the road frontage upgrades from full road reconstruction to center line to the local road standard to no frontage required no frontage construction upgrades required for the subdivision. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wonder if we could get a bit more information on the proposed waiving or variance for section 3.10 and what exactly that means to the road frontage on, I guess it would be the west side. I mean, is that sort of waiving the requirement for sidewalk, or what does it actually entail?
So the applicants are required to meet all sections of the SDS bylaw because they are not exempt from the items in section 3.14. So they're required to upgrade the road fronting their property from center line along the frontage of their property to the local road standard. So that means pavement width would be wider than it currently is by about 2.2 meters. They would be required to install concrete curb and storm infrastructure to collect water from that curb. This area is not specified in the sidewalks master plan for sidewalks, so there was no sidewalk required as part of subdivision. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
My apologies. I believe that the proponents, Grant and Angela Evans, who are here, had the opportunity to comment before we started asking questions. So not that you have to take your question back, Councillor Barkwell, but would you like to speak, either you or Angela, Grant?
Yeah, that would be great. We have a presentation. So once Bobby is finished, there we go. And then we can share our screen with all of you if that works.
Can you see our screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Boot and members of council. We are Grant and Angela Evans of 5010 Croyle Avenue.
Thank you for your thoughtful response at our last meeting. We appreciate the amount of time at the October meeting you spent trying to find a solution that enables us to move our project forward. As you know, we are hoping to subdivide our property at 5010 Croyle Avenue to facilitate the building of our environmentally friendly home. However, this small subdivision has triggered a requirement to increase the water flow to the fire hydrant on the street by upgrading 175 meters of water main. As you may remember, the theoretical addition of carriage houses on each property on Croyle Avenue does not trigger this same requirement, even though it would increase demand on the water system more than our proposed 2 lots. The additional cost involved for the water main replacement part of the project is significant and too onerous for us to take on at an estimated cost of $160,000. We appreciate the district staff's effort to present a new option, which decreases the length of the required water main replacement from 175 meters to 135 meters, and eliminates the cost of road widening and adding a curb along the frontage of our property. District staff stated that this could save up to $63,000 off of the overall cost of the project.
District staff estimated that $13,500 of the approximate $63,000 savings was from the shortened distance of the water main replacement. However, district staff estimated a cost of $7,000 for a new hydrant and $3,000 to decommission the old hydrant which were not factored into their total cost. The other suggested $50,000 of savings is through the elimination of the requirement of upgrading the road to the standard of the Subdivision and Development Servicing Bylaw.
However, when we consulted Ecora Engineering, they told us that the total cost savings would be closer to $10,000. This is a large discrepancy. This discrepancy is because Ecora believes that the numerous trenches dug across the road to service the new lots would cancel out the savings of the overall cost of the subdivision. Additionally, our Class B estimate from Ecora was based on installing flat curbs, which eliminate the need for catch basins, storm pipe, and rock pit. The rezoning comprehensive letter we received from district staff states that we would need to install a flat curb. In his email on November 18th, Mr. Williamson argued that a flat curb is not a standard recognized by the SDS bylaw, so rather rollover curb would be required and hence the storm infrastructure. This accounts for some of the difference in estimates. As Trout Creek has no stormwater pipes to tie into, flat curbs are widely used throughout Trout Creek. As you can see in our slideshow, here are just a few examples of recently constructed flat curbs.
Here's one on Weldon, one street over from us. This one's on Williams, a few streets over from us. And this is the entire neighborhood of Lighthouse Landing has flat curbs. As you remember, one of our proposed options, option 3, was to install a parallel water main down the west side of Croyle Avenue to the northern boundary of our property. This additional fire hydrant would ensure that the new lots would comply with the new fire flow regulation of 60 liters per second. However, staff stated that the existing 50-year-old 100 millimeter asbestos concrete water main is a ticking time bomb. By retaining this asset, staff estimates that every water service on this water main will break at some point in the next 20 years, requiring emergency repair. The estimated cost to repair a water service in this area is $3,800. There are 13 water services on this water main, which means that an estimated $50,000 during working hours will need to be invested over the next 20 years if the water main is not replaced now. Effectively, this means that option 3 will cost a minimum $170,000 in repairs over the lifespan of the water.
Clearly, the water main replacement should be of high priority for the district, as it is a ticking time bomb, which is going to cost $170,000 in repairs over the next 20 years. Therefore, we would like to propose the following.
Providing that staff's offer to eliminate the requirements to construct Croyle Avenue to the local road standard along the property frontage still stands, we are willing to increase our offer to the district from $34,500 to $80,000 to be held in trust until the water main upgrade takes place. This amount reflects half of the total price of the water main upgrade. For simplicity's sake, here's a comparison chart showing what the district has offered us versus what we have offered.
Our proposed project supports the district's official community plan to increase density in the urban growth area of Trout Creek. We are blessed to be able to live on such a beautiful street with amazing neighbors in a district that desires to create a healthy environment for future citizens.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Grant and Angela Evans. Karen, do we have anybody else that wishes to speak to the variance? No? Okay. Okay, so we can resume the questions of staff. Councillor Barkwell, did you have any other question at this point? Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Carlson.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if you could clarify for me, please, Bobby, the amount of water required for the fire flow and the conversation that's being had about the breaks that will happen. Those breaks will only happen if the pipe is expanded as per option 1, I believe, right? If you do this properly, those breaks aren't anticipated. Is that correct? Does that make sense what I'm asking? They're not going to break in the next 20 years if it stays as it is. That's my question, I guess.
That's right, yeah. So if the existing 100 millimeter asbestos concrete water main that's 50 years old remains in place, it is anticipated that over the next 20 years, each one of those water services on that water main will require emergency repair.
Regardless of, so if there's a subdivision, if there's no subdivision, they're still going to require those repairs.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could staff explain the differences or why the differences from the flat curb, why it's already in Trail Creek, but yet in front of the frontage of this house, they were told they could, and then they were told that they couldn't. Why are we seeing these kinds of discrepancies in the information that's being relayed to our citizens?
Yeah, if I may, and we have Chris Johnson on the line as well, our Director of Works and Infrastructure, who might be able to expand a bit. The flat curb is not recognized in the subdivision and development servicing bylaw, which are the standards that staff have to use at our disposal. And theoretically should be used at all times. From what I understand, flat curb has been used in Trout Creek due to or in situations where there are extreme high groundwater situations where storm infrastructure such as dry wells wouldn't necessarily perform the way that they should. Where water can't percolate into the ground through dry wells. Chris, could you comment on that a little bit more? Or?
Hi, Council. Yeah, that's correct, Bobby. So in those situations, it would allow the drainage to sheet flow off the road over the flat curb. And in Lighthouse Landing, for instance, there's drain rock behind that flat curb, so to allow a larger area for that runoff to percolate, and you're not channelizing it to one spot and then trying to discharge it into a dry well. So Bobby's explanation was correct.
So and forgive me but since there's no curb on that full section of street, if we weren't going to grant them this exclusion, they would be the only people on that whole street that would have curb frontage. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? I have a question. First of all, Bobby, thank you for giving a brief overview. I was watching from afar, but it was confusing for me to do that. But so thank you for that. I have a question, and it may be just I'm still not understanding. So the fire flows need to be 60 liters per second. Is that 60 liters associated at all with the diameter of the pipe?
Yeah, so almost, sorry.
Go ahead.
Almost directly attributable to the size of the water main. It would be confirmed by water modeling, as I mentioned, as part of the subdivision, which would properly size the pipe required to be installed, although we anticipate that it would be 150 millimeters. But yeah, so almost any situation where the water main is under 150 millimeters, so 100 millimeters, for example, the fire flows typically cannot be met.
Okay, so given that, I don't understand then why your recommendation is to grant the variance from 150 millimeters to 100 millimeters.
It is quite tricky. So what I'll do, if I can pull up the slide again.
Thank you.
So the SDS bylaw requires the entire frontage of the subject property 5010 to have a minimum water main diameter of 150 millimeters. So in saying that, if we were going to the existing hydrant, the existing location of the existing hydrant, staff would request that that section, that portion of this variance be denied. However, since staff are proposing to move the hydrant north by 40 meters, about halfway through the subject parcel, a portion, or I guess that part of the variance needs to be approved over a portion of the parcel. So that's where we specifically have stated that the minimum water main diameter from 150 millimeters required to 100 millimeters proposed for the frontage between proposed lots 1 and 2 of the subdivision and to the south property line. So that would allow for the variance of this red section. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but could you answer another question for me then?
Yes.
This is the north end. So can you show me, do the lots go 1, 2, 3 or 1? Oh, of course, I'm using my cursor, but of course you can't see it. Do they start from the south? Numbering starts from the south end?
Numbering starts from the north. Lot
The
1
north
would be
end.
north.
Okay. So, I'm using my finger now. Can you go back to the map that shows the yellow, the red, and the green? The one that you had up a second ago?
This one?
No, the slide that shows the yellow, the red. Yes, this one. Okay, I understand it now. Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense now. Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Carlson, is your hand up? No. can't see everybody on the screen. Oh, Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question through to Bobby, if I may. So by moving that hydrant north, how does that affect the properties all to the south now? You know, does that affect their ability to, their insurance rates? Are they too far away from a hydrant now all of a sudden? Are they aware of this possible proposal? You know, I'm just throwing out some questions. I don't know the answers, especially when, you know, like I know for myself, I have to be X amount of, you know, meters from a hydrant to qualify for certain insurance, correct?
Yeah, in some cases, I suppose that would be true. My assumption is that our SDS bylaw takes into an account that distance, and that's why for single family residential type lots and developments, that the spacing between hydrants is 180 meters, and therefore the radius from a hydrant to any house needs to be 90 meters. Moving the hydrant north still satisfies that radius to the south.
Thank you very much.
Other questions? Okay, so we have three recommendations in front of us. One's for denial, the other two are to be granted. Could I have somebody bring forward those resolutions or change them as they deem appropriate, and then we can get something on the table after it's seconded for further discussion? Councillor Barkwell?
Actually, if I have a question for staff, okay. What's the distance that the fire hydrant is moved a little bit north? Does that actually improve the situation, or is it 180 feet between the two existing fire hydrants? Because I think it indicates, there's that one on the corner of Wharf and Croyle, and then the other one, the existing one, is right down at the end of the road, and it's more than 180 meters between them.
Yeah, so if I understand your question correctly, moving the hydrant on Croyle Avenue north would decrease the distance between hydrants towards the one on Wharf. But would make the distance from the properties at the south end of Croyle further away from a hydrant. I'm not sure if I totally understood that question.
That's okay. I've just sort of figured it out for myself.
Yeah,
Thanks.
if I could chime in just quickly, I think the existing situation, spacing between the two existing hydrants where they are today, is within the 180 meter distance, correct, Bobby? Yeah.
Yes.
So relocating that one north won't necessarily improve the situation because it already meets the requirement, and it's only moved the distance that it's moved still ensures the properties on the south end of the street are still within that 180 meter.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is probably to Chris, and my question is in regards to the schedule of quantities and unit prices on how they came up with the $147,000. He's got under section 01 general requirements for $13,500. Chris, can you tell me what that is, what general requirements means?
Yeah, I wasn't involved in the preparation of those, but in most schedule of quantities, sometimes that's your traffic management. Could be some overhead for the project manager. Sometimes locates, things of that nature are included in those general requirements. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the details of these ones to see if there's a breakdown of specifically what it covers.
Okay, thank you. My second question, if I may, Madam Mayor, is under that same, it has section 32, $22,000 for roads, walkway, and site improvements. Would not traffic control and whatnot be included under that 22,000?
Bobby, do you have any details on that?
Yeah, so staff used the estimates prepared by Ecora Engineering to manipulate the quantities to get these prices. So to answer your first question, under general requirements, there's traffic control, vehicle access and parking, mobilization and demobilization, survey and materials testing. That's all under general requirements. And then under section 32, roads and site improvements, that is specifically road gravels and asphalt.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. I just to clarify, so if we expect to spend $50,000 over the next 20 years in repairs by upgrading the water main and the applicants paying for that upgrade, they are saving us $50,000 over the next 20 years? Is that a correct assumption, or?
Potentially, yes. As that old infrastructure sits in the ground, it's at risk for failure. And as per Bobby's report, the explanation or the anticipated number of failures in the next 20 years would be the remaining services that are in the ground. So yeah, that would be a savings to us in the long run.
So just to follow up then, I guess the question is then, in a matter of fairness, is it fair to expect the applicant to pay for something that we're going to end up, we would have to pay for anyway if there's the status quo, and you know, shouldn't they be, I guess, compensated for that somehow?
I guess as with any development, the water mains that are servicing the areas that are being developed are aging and are old, and sometimes there's offsite improvements that are required to meet the servicing requirements for the subdivision being proposed. It's you know, it's estimated, just to give council sort of a life cycle cost on what it would be over a 20-year span. We will only spend those monies and have to do that work if those failures occur. And yeah, we would have this sort of situation or this sort of discussion on any development that's happening in the district. If we start looking at improvements to existing infrastructure that are required for development as a cost savings to the district and having to do that work later, that is why the subdivision and development bylaw exists, in that along with, you know, having standard requirements to service developments, there's going to be infrastructure and improvements, whether it's frontage or whether it's to service an area, that are going to occur through that development. And that's the district's opportunity to take advantage of those improvements and those upgrades and those replacements.
Okay, thank you.
So essentially what you're saying then, Chris, is that this is a cost of, you know, having the subdivision approved? This is part of the general costs of doing that?
yeah, in this situation and in this location, it's a it's just that happens to be the offsite improvements that are required to meet the bylaw, and to meet the fire flows for this area to service the 3-lot development.
Thank you. Councillor Barkwool and then Councillor Van Elfen.
Yeah, just to add to what Director of Development or Public Works said, most of us have been here for 6 years now, and seen a lot of subdivisions and such, and always required that the subdivision servicing requirements be met. And that's just how it works. So that's the opportunity. The subdivisions come with a certain cost, or else you simply don't do it. And this is already being prescribed, and it's been there forever. And this is, I guess Mr. Joe better than I can, but I want to reiterate that this is the practice. We've all seen it.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwool. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I want to thank staff for, going back and trying to come up with all the different options, different scenarios to try to accommodate the people that are doing the subdivision. I appreciate all the time and effort you guys have put in. The water main situation as presented, excuse me, I don't have a problem with that today. Where I'm having a problem is what Council Patton mentioned earlier with the roll off or the curb. This would be the only 3 lots on the whole street that would have a curb, and the possibility of the rest of those homes in the future having curb is probably slim to nil. So like I can go with the, with the water line situation and the improvements there and moving of the fire hydrant. But I can't necessarily wrap my head around the curb part of it. I don't know if that helps anybody.
Okay, we don't have a motion on the floor yet. Are there any more questions of staff? Karen, are the proponents able to speak again?
At the wish of council, your worship, they have had the opportunity, and council's discussing at this point, but certainly if council wishes for them to speak, that's council vote.
Okay, wish of council. All in favor? Okay, so please go ahead, Grant and Angela, and then Councillor Holmes, you're up next.
Thank you very much. Perhaps this is a question for Chris. Just wondering, with the description of the need to replace that water main upgrade being a ticking time bomb, quote, just wondering where on the list of priority that would be for the district to be replacing that line.
Good question. With having 220 kilometers of water main in the district, and this being a dead end water main on a cul-de-sac, it would be very low. One thing that would elevate its priority somewhat would be that it's an undersized water main. It's a 4-inch water main, which we have many kilometers of still within the district, and that it's made of AC water main. That would elevate it, but those are the only 2 factors in this situation that would raise that priority. So currently it's not on our capital plan. It's not on the horizon at all. And I can't say for sure. We're going through a redevelopment of a 10-year capital plan for roads and water mains in 2022. And knowing what I know of our infrastructure now, I doubt it will even be on that plan.
Councillor Holmes and then Councillor Trainer.
Yeah, just back to the road reconstruction, the frontage. So staff is recommending that that no road frontage construction upgrades be approved, be granted. So I'm just wondering what that means in terms of the curb. Could you just explain to me what the recommendation is that's being waived?
So the recommendation that staff have made that's in front of council tonight is to waive the requirement for the applicants to install to repave the road to the local road standard from center line, and install rollover curb and storm infrastructure.
Right.
So that
that's still
would help
right.
them save costs of the subdivision.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Trainer and then Councillor Barkwell.
I remember when we first talked about this, the reason why this is all being triggered is because it's going to 3 lots, right? Like if it was only going to 2 lots, then this work wouldn't be required. Is that correct?
There are 5 requirements that need to be met in order for all or part of the works of the SDS bylaw to be exempt. So being a 2-lot subdivision is one of the requirements. They also can't have a property frontage exceeding 70 meters, which they do exceed, so they aren't exempt from any of the sections right there. So that is the kicker on this one. For properties that are exempt through section 3.14, our Director of Works and Infrastructure has the discretion to require certain upgrades if they are needed for life safety or renewing assets, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, so when it comes time to deal with the motions, could I just ask that we deal with them each separately? That the ones that are in the agenda?
Councillor, thank you, Councillor Barkwell. I just want to hear what Mr. Dolivet has to say.
Yeah, I would advise against that. The staff recommendation that we have before council tonight is kind of a take it or leave it. I mean, you need it all to work together kind of thing in order for the variances to work. Otherwise, it won't work for the purposes of approval. For example, you can't give the variance to the water main diameter and separately from the fire flow because they're related together. So we'd recommend that council approve this as one motion.
Councillor Barkwell.
I was just thinking in terms of like we might want to the recommendation is to waive the frontage requirements, and maybe we don't want to waive the frontage requirements. I can see if you waive the fire and so we'll see how it works out. But I mean, I see your point that some of them one requires the other, but couldn't that be dealt with in the order that we deal with them?
Well, what about this, Councillor Barkwell? If you were to bring forward the first 2, seeing as how you've isolated the 3rd one, if you were to bring those forward and it was seconded, then we could look at the 3rd one individually, provided that would work still for the Director of Development Services. It sounds like it would, but I just want to verify that.
Yeah, Chris and Bobby can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that would work. That you could consider the road frontage upgrade separately.
Ms. Needham.
Madam Mayor, I just was looking at the options that were provided. Option number 2 is that the same thing that we're talking about? No, okay.
Councillor Patton, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree. I like how staff has come forward and moved the hydrant to center line of the new properties. I think that was good. I think where our roadblock here is that our applicants have said, look, we'll give you $80,000, and the district is saying, well, no, we don't want 80,000, we want 147,000. When I take a look at the schedule of quantities and unit prices, I think there's movement there where if the property owners came up a little bit and we came down a little bit, I think the motions would work, and we may get, we could maybe have agreement on both sides.
Okay, currently we don't have any motions on the floor, so I think we need to start there, and then we can talk more along the lines that you've just brought up, Councillor Patton. Anybody willing, Councillor Barkwell?
Yeah, I'll move the motion. I'll read it in a moment, but I just note first that there is no dollar amounts in the motion. It's either to do the work or not do the work. So I'll read the whole thing. That council authorized the issuance of a development variance permit DVP 20-029 at 510 Croyle Avenue, legally described as Lot B, District Lot 488, ODYD, Plan KAP 14446, and that a variance to the following section of the subdivision and development servicing bylaw 99-04 be denied. And that refers to Schedule C.5, Section 2.03, fire demand criteria to vary off-site improvement requirements to eliminate the requirement to meet minimum fire flows. And that a variance to the following sections of subdivision and development services bylaw number 98-004 be granted. Specifically, Schedule C.5, Section 2.05, hydraulic network considerations to reduce the minimum water main diameter from 150 millimeters required to 100 millimeters proposed for frontage between proposed lots 1 and 2 of subdivision application S20-04 to the south property line of 5010 Croyle Avenue, and very section 3.10 servicing requirements at subdivision section 6.02, 6.03, and 6.08 to reduce the road frontage upgrades from full road reconstruction to center line to the local road standard required to no road frontage construction upgrades proposed for the property frontage of 5010 Croyle Avenue. Thank you for being so patient.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Are you seconding? Yes, thank you, Councillor Carlson. Okay, so let's carry on with discussion, please. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's a couple of things in this that really bother me, to tell you the truth. Some of the terms that we've used tonight is, let's take this opportunity to take advantage. And it's to take advantage of our citizen. I want to put that out there. Then we talk about waiving the offsites. A municipality has the right to enforce or not enforce a bylaw. And we've proven that tonight by saying, look, we're going to waive the offsites. You don't have to do the curb, but it's going to save you some money. We already have that option as municipality that we can enforce or not enforce. And the third one is right now, we've got fire flows on that street at 42 liters per second out of that 4-inch asbestos main. With nothing in the future, as Chris has said, there's nothing in the future for any upgrades in regards to that. So we're looking at a minimum fire flow of 60 liters per second. And I know we talked about this the last time, But even knowing that we're at 42 liters per second, that's okay. I think that what we need to do is work with and I'm not saying let's give the farm away. I think that if we move that hydrant, we reduce our costs from $147,000 to $108,000. We still waive the offsite works, and the owners come up with $28,000. Both sides are going to win, and we're going to have the 60 liters per second. We're going to have a new fire flow, and the folks can carry on with their subdivision. I think that when we're charging $13,500 for road people on a dead-end cul-de-sac, yeah, I have a problem with that. I also have a problem that we keep charging contingency fees of 10%. And we've got an engineering fee of 10%. We could waive those 3 fees, get that down to $108,000, and we would be off to the races. But the terminology that we're using and what we're saying here is, I really have issues, especially let's take this opportunity to take advantage. That just, I'm sorry, but that gets my dander going. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patton. Councillor Barkwell.
Yes, Councillor Patton raises a question in my mind. I understood that what they have is quotes for the cost prepared by Cora, and that the developer, being the applicants here, would then hire a construction firm and an engineering firm to oversee it to do that work. Those aren't our charges to them. Could wind up being more, but that's just the estimate. What we're concerned about is not the cost, is meeting the standard. And there's no way I want to start getting into some negotiation process with everybody who makes a subdivision application. We've got the requirements here. We've met them. I've met them myself. I didn't even think about asking for a discount on it because those connections might have to be replaced somewhere in the future. You know, it's just not the way to operate the district as far as I'm concerned. And so, yeah, that was both a statement and a question. Is it work to be done by the district or is it done by a contractor?
The work would typically be done by a contractor.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and the estimates provided were from Ecora based on a contractor doing them. They weren't quotes from the district for the district to do the work.
So there's no overhead, none of those things.
Those are not our charges and not our quote. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, well, we have the motions on the floor then. Oh, Councillor Barkwell.
No, not me.
I'm sorry, Councillor Holmes.
So we have this motion on the floor, and if we decide, if we wanted to go with a flat curb, we could have another motion after that? Or this is, that's not on it's not on the table now.
Brad, did you wish to speak to that?
Yeah, just to clarify, what is the motion on the floor is a variance to not make any road improvements to the curb. So currently there's no curb on Coral Avenue. So if council wants to impose that section of the bylaw, either I suggest an amendment to this motion, but right now on the floor is to not require the installation of any curb as part of this development.
Not even a flat curb.
Not even a flat curb, no.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wasn't clear on when I asked before. Thanks.
Councillor Trainer.
Can I ask Councillor Patton just for a clarification on what he said? Is that okay? Councillor Patton, you had mentioned you proposed a cost of 108,000 for the applicants. The district estimate is 147. So I'm just wondering if it did go over your proposed amount of 108, where would that money come from?
Good question. I would, where have all our fees come from? The property owners, where did their $80,000 come from? Their $80,000 came from their consultant. So, I just think that we're so far apart here, and we're not reducing, as Councillor Barco, we're not reducing, we're actually improving the fire flows on the street. We just have to come up with a suitable and more equitable cost. Realistically, this has to do with the money of it. And even though the motions in front of us don't talk about money, if the motions don't go, then the money doesn't go, right? So they are tied together. You can paint it whatever picture or whatever color you want. The money is tied to the motions. And I think that I know what my little subdivision cost me, and I'd be seeing red when I saw these figures.
Councillor Turner, do you have a follow-up? Yes.
Yeah. So, if money is the issue here, I mean, we want to do the upgrades properly. I think we're all hopefully on the same page there. If money is the issue, then is the problem the estimate? And if we went back again and looked at the estimate and tried to work that better to get something more accurate, would that help this situation? I don't know.
I don't think it's our estimate.
Yeah, if I may. So I guess my question would be is the district, is it the owners that would hire the contractor, or is it the district that would hire the contractor? If it's the owner that's going to hire the contractor, then they can work within the confines of their budget. If it's the district that's hiring the contractor, then there's going to be overheads on top of that for the district.
I think we've already had that question answered in terms of who would be hiring which contractor, or if it's the district or if it's the proponents. And I think we've also heard that this isn't the District of Summerland's estimate, it is Ecora Engineering's estimate. Councillor Barkwell, followed by Councillor Van Elfen.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to make that point. Yeah, in my rant, maybe Councillor Patton missed that point, that it's the contract, it's Ecora's estimates, and the district has nothing to do with the work here. They just set the standards and then the work is done by a contractor, and he's trying to save money, but I'd like to remind him that subdivisions are a capitalist enterprise. And the district has standards that we maintain. We don't subsidize capitalist enterprises. That's how our system works. It's that if it's not worthwhile doing, then it doesn't get done. And I think for equity, we have to keep these standards for you and your little subdivision, and the arm and a leg it cost you and the next guy too. And I don't want to set any precedent here beyond this. I think we've done a great, I made a heck of an effort to try and work out what does work over and above, or, from where the starting point was. And I got to draw the line here.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A question through to our Director of Development Services. So can you remind me on latecomers fees? So if another property wants to subdivide, they would have to pay the original subdividers a latecomers fee to hook into that water main?
Yeah, that's correct. So we would calculate as part of a latecomer agreement the amount of benefit to all of the owners within Coral Avenue that would benefit from the enhanced water main project, and calculate a share per property if they were to get redeveloped. And we hold that latecomer for 15 years. We have a policy in place for that. So if a development was to occur within that 15-year period, we would collect the monies on behalf of the current developer that have been assigned to that specific property as part of their development proposal, and then submit it back to the current developer for their benefit. But we would only guarantee that for the next 15 years. So after that first 15-year mark is up, then it would expire and no longer apply.
Follow up, if I may, Madam Mayor.
Yes,
So,
go ahead.
so would carriage houses trigger that also, latecomers fees?
No. It would only be based on a development that would probably be a subdivision, like that would trigger a latecomer fee.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or any more discussion on this before I call the question? Councillor Barkwell, I won't ask you to read it again. So we're looking at denial of the fire demand criteria and a granting of the two variances regarding the size of the water main, diameter of the water main, and not requiring the road frontage upgrades. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? So was that was carried unanimously? I'm not sure. Okay, thank you very much, Council. Okay, development variance permit DVP 20-033 at 3319 Johnson Street. Ariane, I believe this is yours.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Okay. The district received an application for a development variance permit requesting the reductions to the minimum front and exterior side yard setback for a property located at 3319 Johnson Street. The OCP future land use designation is agricultural and it is zoned A1. And as you can see, these uses are consistent with adjacent properties, which are mainly zoned A1 and are country residential. So it's a fairly rural area in Summerland. The property also falls within the agricultural land reserve, and it was part of a farm severance in 1982. So the size of the parcel is actually undersized for A1 properties within the district. So these are just a few photos from the site itself. And what's interesting about it is that, as you can see here, the majority of the property, the majority of this grassy area here is actually a district right-of-way. The property lines start in the middle of these planters here, and it's similar in this photo as well, where the grass is mostly a right-of-way. And yeah, so with this in mind, the existing house as it is currently non-conforming as it's encroaching into the front yard setback by about 4.13 meters and by about 3.91 meters into the exterior side yard setback. So the current proposal encroaches further into the setbacks, into both the front and side. So what the owners are requesting at this time is a front yard setback of 0.71 meters and an exterior side yard setback of 0.24 meters. And really, this is just to be able to facilitate the construction of a deck, which is triggering both the front and exterior side yard setbacks. But as you can see in the site plan where the existing house is, it's already quite close to the property line as well. So although reducing setbacks may alter the form and character of the neighborhood, the proposal of these variances are unlikely to negatively impact the streetscape for a few different reasons. So to the north and to the west of the property are right-of-ways that give the illusion that the property is larger than it actually is. So building within such close proximity to the property lines would still maintain the rural character of the area, as the right-of-way provides a fairly substantial landscape buffer. And also the house already encroaches into the proposed, or already encroaches into the setbacks, and what the owners are proposing at this time wouldn't significantly alter the appearance of the house itself, given that the majority of the works are happening at the rear and mostly comply with setbacks. And then also to the front, they're creating a covered patio and building the deck. So, so as far as internal and external commons go, the building and fire department noted that the property is located out this 10-minute fire response area. And as such, a spatial separation calculation should be provided for the north and west building faces, which might result in the requirement for windows or doors to be removed or protected, but this would be determined later at the building permit stage. No concerns were raised by external agencies either. So given that the existing house already encroaches into the setbacks and the right-of-ways provide a substantial buffer between the house and the street, staff do not anticipate negative impacts as a result of the proposed development and recommend that this application be supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariane. Is there anybody here, Karen, that wishes to speak to this variance? No? Okay. Okay, so council, do you have questions of Ariane? Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you. It does appear to be a rather unique situation. One question, I was just wondering, since the property is zoned A1 and there's a certain coverage minimums or maximums, I should say, is there a variance required for that aspect of the addition?
Yeah, so as it is, the size of the property is actually under the farm home plate. So we're looking at coverage calculations to the property itself. So it would be 35% of the parcel, and what they're proposing meets 35%.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Okay, could I have someone bring forward the motion, please? Councillor Patton.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. The council authorized issuance of development variance permit DVP 20-033 for a property located at 3319 Johnson, legally described as Lot 1, District Lot 488, Osoyoos Division, Yale District Plan 34901, and that a variance to the following sections of zoning bylaw 2000-450 be granted. Front yard setback section 8.16 A and I to vary the minimum front yard setback from 7 meters permitted to 0.71 meters proposed, and side yard setback exterior section 8.16 A and 4 to vary the minimum side yard setback from 4.5 meters permitted to 0.24 meters proposed.
Thank you, Councillor Patton. Seconded by Councillor Van Elfen. And do you have a question or comment? No. Okay, anyone have any further discussion on this? Seems like a pretty straightforward one, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Now on to zoning bylaw amendment number 2020-0223 to rezone from RSD3 to RSD2 at 1505 Britton Road. I believe Alex, there you are. Okay, over to you, Alex.
Thank you very much. All right, let me just get the screen up here. There we go. All right. All right. So an application has been received to rezone the property at 1505 Britton Road from residential estate lot 3 to residential large lot RSD2. The site is currently sits as a vacant lot in Summerland's Trout Creek neighborhood. In the RSD2 zone, single detached dwelling is a permitted use. The proposal is to rezone the property to RSD2 to facilitate home construction is supported by the official community plan and conforms to the density envisioned in the OCP. The rationale behind this application is to ensure that the required front setback is consistent with other homes in the neighborhood. Neighboring properties are zoned RSD2 and require a 6-meter front yard setback, whereas 1505 Britton Road is currently zoned as RSD3, requiring a 7-meter front yard setback. Rezoning this property would allow the neighborhood to maintain its form and character, considering the existing setbacks. Another rationale for this change is to increase the allowable coverage on the property. The applicant plans to construct a single detached home as well as a carriage house. The existing coverage allowed under RSD3 is 30%. The proposed rezoning to RSD2 would increase the allowable coverage to 40%, making it easier to site both the home and the carriage home on the lot. The impact of rezoning 1505 Britton Road on neighboring properties is anticipated to be minimal, as the area is dominated by single detached home development, and the surrounding neighborhood is already zoned RSD2. Further, the proposed change will allow the new home to be constructed with similar street front character to other homes in the neighborhood. As such, staff are recommending support and going forward to public hearing on December 14th.
December, you said. Can't believe December already. It's ridiculous. Okay, questions of Alex? Anyone on council? Councillor Trainer.
What's the size of an RSD3 again? Like, what's the difference between 2 and 3?
So here, give me one moment here.
Like, what I'm getting at is it a 3 just because it's slightly bigger than a 2? Because all the others in that row are a 2.
Yeah, no, I believe it's I actually don't know. I believe it was a 3 because it was originally, actually, I don't know for, hold on a sec here. I had to pull up the zoning bylaw on my computer, one sec. But no, there's no, I mean, I don't know of any specific reason why it was previously zoned as RSD 3. The RSD 3 lots are usually the larger, but.
No, I was just wondering if it was just off by a little bit and that's why it was considered a 3 instead of a 2. Because like I said, all the others in the row are a 2. So anyway, I don't think it'll make a difference in the street at all because they all look the same, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Delavan?
I pulled up the zoning bylaw, I guess a bit quicker than Alex, but the minimum lot size for RSD2 was 650 meters squared. And then for RSD3 was 1,000 meters squared. But I'm not too sure if that was a factor in the original zoning.
Any other questions of staff? Could I ask someone to bring forward the zoning bylaw amendment and public hearing, please. Thank you, Councillor Holmes.
So move that zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw number 2020-023 located at 1505 Britain Road, Lot 8, District Lot 488, Osoyoos Division, Yale District Plan, KAP 88772 to change the zoning from RSD3 residential estate lot to RSD2 residential large lot be introduced and read a first and second time, and that a public hearing be held on December 14th, 2020 to receive public feedback on zoning bylaw amendment 1505 Britain Road, bylaw number 2020-023.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Van Elfen, you're seconding. Okay, anybody else have any comments or further discussion on this? All in favor? And any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. 9.4, I think Brad is going to talk to us about the October 2020 Development Services Department monthly report.
So yeah, just a quick update for the activities in October. We've given a breakdown of all the specific applications that we've got undergoing and kind of a status update of those key planning applications we have within our system. And then just for the building permit side, in October we had 17 building permits issued, and we're up to a total year-to-date construction value of 29 million for the year. So a bit lower than last year, but it still shows that we're on par for other years despite COVID for building activity, and that's what we expect going into the remainder of this year. So, but I'm happy to take any questions on specific files or any of the stuff in the report.
Any questions? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Do we have permits coming in for the condo development on Lakeshore?
Yep, it's, I think, getting closer. They are still doing preliminary engineering, I believe, prior to submitting a building permit. We've gotten some more detail from them recently, and I think they've gotten a civil contractor for the offsite works in place. So, and we've been in constant kind of communication with them, but they haven't submitted their building permit yet.
Thank you.
I have the same question, Brad, about Hunter's Hill. Have we been receiving? Yes, we have.
Sorry, what's the question? Sorry.
The question is, have you been receiving the building permits from Hunter's Hill?
For phase one, yes, we have. I think we've issued 5. I can't remember the top of my head, but around that amount, up to the foundation stage. We are currently actually restricting framing until we have water activated and commissioned on site.
Okay. Well, pretty pleased to see we're at 29.5 million. 6 months ago, it was pretty iffy if we'd get up to 30 million, and we're almost there. So thanks, that's great. Great work. Okay, any other questions of Brad on this report? Could I have somebody receive that for information, please? Councillor Traynor and Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor? Thank you. And then I guess, Brad, it's you again, is it? Speaking about the recommendations on the Downtown Neighborhood Plan Task Force, just bringing it out into the public realm.
Yeah, I just want, I guess, to state that we have selected our our initial round, and we were still waiting for some representatives from key organizations, but we're very excited to get the ball rolling on our downtown neighborhood plan task force committee. So we've selected 9 people to sit on that committee, and we're actually having our first meeting this week, a virtual meeting with those representatives, and I'm excited to get this project off the ground and start moving the plan and discussion forward with the community on what we want the downtown to look like in the future. So, yeah.
Excellent. And thanks again to Councillors Carlson and Holmes and Van Alphen as the alternate for taking on that extra work. So that's good. I'm glad we're finally there, Council. It's taken years. We're finally there. Any notice of motion a councillor would like to bring forward? Okay, so on to information items. There's a few pieces of correspondence. Anything that's anyone would like to bring forward? There is one item, item G, Deputy Minister of Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Anti-Racism Network and Multiculturalism grants. And I asked our acting CAO this morning if she would follow up with what was in the letter about SOICs getting in touch with us, or us getting in touch with SOICs about our conversations against racism in Summerland. So given time, then we'll have that report back from Ms. Needham. Is there anything else? Okay, could I have the correspondence be received for information, please? Councillors Van Alphen and Holmes, all in favor? Great. And now on to councillor reports, starting with Councillor Van Alphen.
Nothing to report at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Traynor.
I have nothing to report, but I just would like to offer my condolences to the past mayor of Penticton, Andrew Jacobite. Many of us, when we were on council in the last term, worked with Andrew. His wife, Leanne Jacobite, passed away on Saturday, and Leanne ran one of the, I think it's the only record store in the South Okanagan. She ran it for almost 30 years, I think. And so I just wanted to offer my condolences to Andrew. And I think Leanne will be really missed by a lot of people in the South Okanagan who really liked her business, which is Groove Rut in Penticton.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I was unaware. Oh, thank you, Councillor Traynor. Councillor Holmes.
I have no report, thank you.
Okay, and we received your RDOS report. Any questions on the RDOS report? Okay, Councillor Patton.
Nothing to report, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Carlson.
You guys just want to hear from me. The Okanagan Regional Library chair for the last couple of years has been Carla Kozakovich, and now her time is up on the library board, so she has stepped down from that position as of the next meeting in February. So she was on the board for 8 years, which is a significant amount of time. So people just say thank you to her for that contribution that she made to our library system if you get a chance. The other thing that I attended last week was an Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting. And it became clear at the end of the meeting that there are a lot of issues in our agricultural community, and they're not just in Summerland, but I think it's important that we talk about them in Summerland, whether they're water or land use or buffers or setbacks, noise, tractors on roads, labor, you know, housing, there are a lot of issues that people would really like to talk about. And I think that at some point in the near future, council needs to have a conversation about how we can have that happen. I know we're going to be redoing our zoning bylaw for agriculture. I know that back a year ago, the chair of the Ag Advisory Committee attempted to restart the conversation about updating our ag plan, and it just kind of hit a brick wall, and it was extremely frustrating process. But I know, you know, we've given due to the development community. We've gone through the development improvement process. That was a dedicated thing. We're now doing our downtown plan. It's a dedicated thing. And so I really want to just throw that out there, that I think we also need to put on that list and talk about how it's going to fit in, to make sure that our agricultural community has their turn to have this conversation with this district and with City Hall and with council about what it is that our farmers need. And we have to do it sooner than later, because people are getting very frustrated, and it's hard because there's no platform for them. And it's not going to be an easy conversation. And I know that sometimes these things are tough, but hopefully we can find a way to at least engage. So that would be the last thing I wanted to report. And I was thinking about how to make that a notice of motion, but I think it's better to just start talking about it as a part of what I learned last week. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Carlson. You know, it's these committees, otherwise we don't all attend the committee meetings. So I appreciate you bringing that forward. If we're going to continue to honor the heritage of Summerland with agriculture, you're right, it's a really important conversation. And we know that we did okay. At least the early harvesters did okay this past year with COVID and getting suitable housing, but that problem is never going to go away, whether COVID is with us or not. So you're right. And when they are in their, well, I guess there's really never a true down season for farmers. There's pruning and all kinds of planning and things to do, but I would certainly support having a conversation with this really valued portion of our community. So thanks for bringing that forward. And maybe Ms. Needham, you can add that to the growing list of things that our new CAO will have put on his plate when he arrives. Thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
Nothing that I can report, although I listened to Councillor Carlson's report with real interest, although we may have disagreed on agricultural water rates. I do support the agriculture and recognize it's the fundamental being of our community, both for the economic impact of the growers and sows and the tourism. So if they have issues and concerns, we certainly need to address them.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. I would expect that we don't have anybody for the public comments. Karen, okay, thank you. So could I have asked someone to bring forward adjournment tonight, please? Councillor Van Elfen and Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Great, thank you. 7:43. Good night, everyone.
Bye.